Okay, let's talk about curves. Curves is probably one of the most intimidating tools in Snapseed, but it's really powerful. And so if you want to kind of try and tackle it, there's a lot you can do in there. And yeah, it really gives you a lot of control over your image. The other thing I would say about curves is that some of the stuff you can do is actually really simple to yield really good results. And so we'll also talk about the 20% that can get you the 80% of return here in curves. So the first thing I want to say is that for a lot of common quote unquote curve shapes, you don't even need to make the adjustment yourself. We have really good presets in here. So for example, that's the quintessential soft S curve. I'll talk more about that. That's a harder one. This is one of my personal favorites, this quote unquote fade curve. I often pair this with film looks to make my photos look really sort of vintage and old and sort of authentic. But yeah, there's a bunch here, but let's go back to talking about what curves is and what it's all about. So you can really think the curve in three components. So down here, you're adjusting your shadows. Okay, so if you look at the shadows of the image, you can see them coming up or really getting darker. In the middle of the image, you adjust your midtones. And then on top of the curve, you adjust your highlights. Okay, and so you can see as I do extremes here, you can kind of see the highlights changing. And so what a very common adjustment is to add a little bit more contrast and pop to your image is to create what's sort of known as the S curve. So I'll grab up here at the top of the curve, if I can just get it, and I'll bring this up a little bit, and then I will bring this here down a little bit, and that, yeah, is an S curve, which I also could have done by hitting this. So that's basic adjustments. With the S curve, this is a tool where I'd really honestly just encourage you to come and play around with just grabbing points on the curve and seeing what it does, because you'll start to very quickly get a sense for the type of adjustments you can make. We're gonna jump over to this photo from the Bonneville Salt Flats to talk about some more advanced curve usage. So before we were here, now I'm gonna jump into the color channel curves to show you some of the other stuff you can do. So these color channels essentially allow you to push between two colors. So for red, it's between red and cyan. For green, it's between green and magenta. And for blue, it's between blue and yellow. So to use this, I took this photo at sunrise, but I've really been liking the blue hour look, and I can kind of recreate that by grabbing the curve down here in the shadows and bumping up the blue curve. And you can see we've gone from where it was, which was very warm and more in the yellows, and made it look like a pretty realistic reproduction of blue hour. The other thing you should know about the curves tool is that, as you can obviously see, the histogram covers a ton of the screen. If you want to get an unimpeded view of your image, just tap the histogram in the upper right corner and it will disappear. So that's kind of intro to curves as well as the more advanced course. There's a ton you can do in this tool. Don't be intimidated, just poke around and you'll start to get a sense of what it can do.